Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video for more untold war stories from the pages of history. Tonight, we journey into one of the most extraordinary and least understood battles of World War II. A battle fought not with bullets or bombs, but with waves and echoes, with silence and deception. July 24, 1943. Deep inside Nazi Germany, as radar screens flickered to life across the north, a war began that no one could see. A war that would blind an empire. At the Himmelbett Eisbär radar station outside Hamburg, Oberfunkmeister Klaus Hartmann stared at his Würzburg radar display. His gloved hand froze on the range dial as he watched the screen dissolve into chaos. Where once there had been crisp, defined dots, each marking an incoming bomber, there now stretched a blinding storm of echoes. Hundreds, perhaps thousands. His training screamed malfunction, but instinct whispered something worse. He scribbled in the station log, "Radar shows more aircraft than exist in the entire Royal Air Force. Either the British are attacking with everything they have, or we are witnessing something new." Across northern Germany, radar stations from the North Sea to the Ruhr echoed Hartmann's confusion. Fighter controllers barked into radios, their orders dissolving into panic. Night fighters scrambled toward phantom targets. Anti-aircraft batteries fired blindly at ghosts in the sky. Searchlights swept empty heavens, their radar guidance useless. It was as if the night itself had turned against them. The German air defense network, once hailed as the most advanced on Earth, had suddenly gone dark. For years, Germany's radar supremacy had been unchallenged. Since 1939, the Luftwaffe's Freya and Würzburg systems had guarded Europe's skies with mathematical precision. The Kammhuber line, an intricate web of overlapping radar zones, formed a barrier thought impenetrable. Each sector paired a radar station with a night fighter, guided by radio and precision plotting. It was an elegant, deadly machine. German scientists had turned darkness into a weapon, turning night into day. By early 1943, this system was feared by every Allied airman. Bomber commands' losses mounted night after night. Crews whispered about the German eyes that could see through darkness. In March, attacks on Berlin cost over 5% of bombers dispatched, a rate that could doom the entire campaign. For every city bombed, dozens of crews vanished into the night. Air Chief Marshal Arthur Harris feared the arithmetic of attrition. "We will run out of men before Germany runs out of cities." But while the Luftwaffe's radars seemed invincible, a quiet revolution was taking shape in British laboratories. At the Telecommunications Research Establishment in Malvern, and at Harvard's Radio Research Laboratory in Massachusetts, scientists were crafting a weapon unlike any before, a weapon of illusion. Among them was a Welsh physicist named Joan Curran. Her discovery was deceptively simple. Cut strips of aluminum foil, each half the wavelength of German radar signals, and drop them from bombers. These strips would bounce radar pulses back like thousands of phantom aircraft. They called it Window, a name as unassuming as its appearance. Each strip, costing less than a penny, could return an echo as bright as a bomber. When released in thousands, these windows would flood German radar screens with false targets. Yet for over a year, the British dared not use it. German scientists, unknown to the Allies, had already invented the same concept, calling it Doppel. Both sides hesitated, fearing mutual destruction. To deploy it would be to invite blindness upon themselves. By mid-1943, the balance shifted. German bombers had been withdrawn from Britain, and the Blitz was over. The fear of retaliation faded. British intelligence confirmed that German radar still used frequencies vulnerable to window. The decision was made. Operation Gomorrah, the bombing of Hamburg, would be the weapon's debut. In secret briefings, 24 bomber crews were told to drop bundles of foil from their flare chutes, one per minute, using a stopwatch. Most laughed at the idea. How could tinsel defeat radar? They would soon learn. On the evening of July 24, 1943, nearly 800 bombers, Lancasters, Halifaxes, Stirlings, roared into the twilight. Engines thundered over the English countryside as ground crews waved them off. Each aircraft carried its usual load of high explosives and incendiaries, and something new, crates of window stacked beside the flares. The mission: destroy Hamburg and test a secret that could change the war. As the formations crossed the North Sea, the world below was silent, unaware that history was about to turn invisible. At 22:30, German Freya radars detected the approaching formations. Controllers marked the paths, predicting another routine raid. Nothing unusual until midnight. As the first bombers crossed the coast, radar screens exploded with impossible echoes. Hartmann watched in horror as his Würzburg display became a blizzard of light. Across the command network, the same reports flooded in. Multiple contacts, too many to count. Targets everywhere. The German radar net, once precise as a surgeon's scalpel, had become blind chaos. Fighter controllers screamed for order. Night fighters took to the air, but their Liechtenstein radars saw the same confusion, ghosts everywhere. Pilots flew toward echoes that vanished when approached. Others chased phantom targets through empty skies. Major Heinz Wolfgang Schnaufer, already an ace, recorded, "The screen was alive with returns, but none were real. We flew blind. From the ground, searchlights stabbed at nothing. Anti-aircraft batteries fired into empty air. The German defense, once lethal, had been turned against itself. The British bomber stream pressed on, unchallenged. Window cascaded through the night like metallic snow, drifting in moonlight as Hamburg lay ahead. Only 12 aircraft were lost that night, a fraction of previous operations. For the crews, it was surreal. No radar-guided flak, no coordinated interception, just sporadic, aimless fire. Flight Lieutenant Harold Martin wrote in disbelief, "The searchlights waved like drunks. We flew straight through. Beneath them, the city began to burn. The bombing was devastating. Hamburg's Altena and Neustadt districts vanished in firestorms that consumed entire blocks. Heat reached such intensity that asphalt streets caught fire. The glow could be seen from 200 kilometers away. In the morning, Germany awoke to a nightmare and a mystery. Radar operators, engineers, and commanders demanded answers. Why had the system failed so completely? The answer came when soldiers sweeping the streets found millions of silver strips tangled in trees, gutters, and canals. Dr. Hans Plendl, the Reich's radar authority, examined the debris and understood instantly. "The British have used double," he whispered. The horror was not that the enemy had discovered it, but that Germany had possessed the same weapon for over a year and had been too afraid to use it. The strategic tables had turned overnight. Panic spread through the Luftwaffe's technical branches. General Kamhuber convened emergency meetings, demanding solutions, but there were none. German industry was already overextended, producing rockets, fighters, and existing radar systems. Retooling for new frequencies would take months they didn't have. Desperate stopgaps emerged. Visual wild-boar tactics that sent day fighters to hunt bombers by moonlight and firelight. The losses were catastrophic. Germany's technological advantage had died in a single night. Across the Atlantic, American scientists joined the invisible war. At Harvard, the Radio Research Laboratory developed Carpet, an active radar jammer that flooded Würzburg radar frequencies with noise. Installed on B-17s, these systems turned German flak radar into meaningless static. Sergeant Robert Chun described it simply, "We'd see the flak tracking us perfectly, and then scatter once we switched on the jammer." The effect was revolutionary. Within months, bomber losses to radar-directed guns fell by 75%. The radar war became a relentless duel of innovation. German scientists tried filtering out slow-moving window returns and shifting frequencies, but the Allies adapted faster. Each new German radar, like the Liechtenstein SN2, was analyzed, captured, and countered. British Mosquito night fighters used serrate receivers to home in on German radar emissions, turning the hunters into hunted. By mid-1944, German crews flew in fear of their own technology. Every signal they sent could summon death. The tide was irreversible. Germany diverted thousands of engineers from rocket and aircraft programs to futile radar countermeasure projects. Millions of man-hours vanished into dead ends. Anti-aircraft guns multiplied, consuming vast resources, but without radar precision, they became blunted instruments. 1 million men stood beside guns that could no longer see their targets. In the words of one German operator, "We fought blind against an enemy who saw everything." By 1944, Allied air superiority was total. During the D-Day landings, Operations Glimmer and Taxable used window and radar reflectors to create phantom invasion fleets, drawing German defenses away from Normandy. Deceived and blind, German commanders hesitated. The Allies had turned radar, the symbol of precision, into an instrument of confusion. By war's end, over 14,000 carpet jammers had been built, and electronic warfare had emerged as a decisive new front. Klaus Hartmann survived the war, eventually moving to America. In a 1978 interview, he recalled the moment his radar screen filled with impossible echoes. "That was the night Germany lost the air war," he said quietly. "Not when the bombs fell, but when we lost sight of them." The invisible war had proven one truth. In modern conflict, knowledge is the ultimate weapon. The side that controls the unseen spectrum controls the battlefield itself. On July 24, 1943, Germany's radar eyes were blinded, and the future of warfare changed forever.